remember, in the last story, we left Jesus rather wet. He had been baptised by John in the river, and we learnt that God said that Jesus was someone very special. Well, today, our story is a little bit watery too, and a bit fishy. So we're going to open the book on Jesus' special friends. What shall we do? Let's open the book.
Jesus grew up in a place called Galilee, where there was a large and beautiful lake, and it was there that he began the work God gave him to do.
God is like a king,
he told the people.
And he wants all of you to be part of his kingdom, to love him and to love each other.
People liked to hear Jesus talk. In fact, one morning, the crowd was so huge that Jesus was nearly pushed into the sea.
Excuse me?
Jesus asked a fisherman.
Could I borrow your boat for a while?
The fisherman's name was Peter.
Of course,
he said.
It's doing me no good. I was out all last night and I didn't catch a thing.
Jesus climbed into the boat. Peter rowed it a little way from shore. And from there, Jesus talked to the crowd. When he'd finished, Jesus sent the people home. Then he turned to Peter.
Let's go a little further out.
He whispered.
I'd like to catch some fish.
Peter tossed back his head and laughed.
Look, I told you. My men and I were out all last night and we caught nothing.
Jesus didn't say a word. He just smiled and looked across the lake.
All right.
Peter sighed.
If that's what you want.
So Peter sailed to the deepest part of the lake. Then he dropped his fishing nets over the side. It took no time at all. The nets started pulling and jerking and stretching, and it was all Peter could do to keep the boat from tipping over.
Help!
Peter called to some friends nearby.
Help me, please!
And they rowed to him as fast as they could. Then, all together, the men pulled on the nets, and fish came tumbling and flapping onto the decks of both boats. Red fish and blue fish, and not just one or two fish. So many, in fact, that the boats would have sunk had the fishermen not rowed back quickly to the shore. Peter looked at the fish. Peter looked at his friends. Then Peter looked at Jesus and fell to his knees, trembling.
Only God. Only God or somebody full of his power could do that.
Peter said.
And why would someone like that want to go fishing with the likes of me?
Jesus shook his head and smiled.
Don't be scared.
He said.
God has given me a lot of work to do, and I need helpers. Helpers like you and your friends. Once you fished for fish, but from now on you'll be fishing for people and helping me bring them to God.
Then Jesus stepped out of the boat and walked away across the shore.
Come with me.
He called. Peter and his friends watched him go. They looked at the fish. They looked at each other. Then they dropped their nets, left their boats behind, and raced off to follow Jesus.
Peter was a good fisherman. He knew the fish weren't there until Jesus spoke. Peter knew it was a miracle, and so he followed Jesus. And that changed his life forever. Although we cannot see Jesus today, Christians will tell you they've also followed Jesus and that it changes their life forever. Close your eyes and think about the miracle that Peter and the fishermen saw. Imagine how amazed they were at what Jesus had done. Close your eyes. Now I'm going to say a prayer, and if you want to make it your prayer, say Amen at the end after me. Dear God, thank you that Peter had friends to call on when he needed help with all those fish. Thank you too that Jesus needed friends like Peter to help him tell people all about you. Please help each of us to be a good friend. Amen.